I stood in my grandfather's dining room, hands still wet from washing the dishes no one else would touch, when my Aunt Patricia looked at me across the Thanksgiving table and said the words that had been building for 32 years. "You never help with anything, Daniel. You just show up and take." The room went silent. My cousins, their spouses, everyone frozen mid-bite. I felt my face burn with humiliation because I'd been helping for 3 years in ways none of them knew. But before I could defend myself, my 76-year-old grandfather stood up from his chair, slammed his hand on the table, and said one sentence that shattered my aunt's accusation. "That boy has paid every single one of my bills for the last 3 years. My name is Daniel Hayes. I'm 32 years old, and I'm an ICU nurse at Cook County Hospital in Chicago. One work 12-hour night shifts, make $58,000 a year, and live in a studio apartment on the south side because it's all I can afford. My father died when I was 10, heart attack, no warning. My mother raised me alone, working 2 jobs until she died 3 years ago from cancer. The only family I have left is my grandfather William, my Aunt Patricia, and her 2 kids, my cousins Jason and Michelle, both corporate lawyers who make 6 figures and live in the suburbs. To them, I'm the family failure. The one who chose nursing over law school, who rents instead of owns, who never made something of himself. What they don't know is that for 3 years I've been the only thing keeping our grandfather afloat. The divide in our family started early. My father was the younger brother, the one who became a mechanic instead of going to college. Patricia was the golden child, married a lawyer, had successful kids, lived in a big house in Evanston. When my dad died, Patricia made it clear we were lesser. "I wish your father had made better choices," she told my mother at the funeral. For Daniel's sake. Better choices meant money, status, a college degree. It didn't matter that my dad was a good man who loved his family. I went to nursing school on loans and scholarships. My cousins went to Northwestern Law on their parents' dime. "Nursing?" Patricia said when I told her my major. "Daniel, well, it's respectable work, but don't you want something more ambitious?" "I want to help people." "Yes, but you could help people as a doctor or a hospital administrator. Nursing is it's very working class. Working class." The worst insult in Patricia's vocabulary. My cousins were worse. Jason would introduce me to his friends as my cousin, he's a nurse, with emphasis that made it sound apologetic. Michelle would ask at every holiday, "Still working nights? Don't you want a real career?" This was my real career. I was good at it. I saved lives. But to them, I was the embarrassment. When Mom died 3 years ago, everything changed. She'd been helping Grandpa William with his bills, his house maintenance, his medical appointments. After she was gone, I took over. Grandpa's pension barely covered his mortgage. His medications cost hundreds a month. The house needed constant repairs, furnace, roof, plumbing. He was too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to admit he was struggling. So I started helping quietly. I'd come over twice a week after my night shifts, exhausted, running on 3 hours of sleep, and I'd fix what was broken, pay what was overdue, make sure he was okay. I took over his mortgage payments when he fell behind. $600 a month I didn't have, but I made it work. I skipped meals, didn't buy new clothes, walked instead of taking the train sometimes. His property taxes were 3 months overdue, $4,200 he couldn't pay. I put it on a credit card and paid it off over 2 years. His furnace died in January. $3,000 for a new one. I took out a personal loan. His medications, he was rationing them because he couldn't afford all of them. I started covering the copays. $250 a month. The roof leaked. The gutters fell off. The refrigerator died. The car needed repairs. Every problem I fixed. Every bill I paid. Every appointment I drove him to. I didn't tell anyone. Not because I wanted recognition, but because Grandpa was embarrassed. He didn't want Patricia knowing he couldn't handle things on his own. "Patricia will put me in a home," he told me once. First sign I can't manage, she have me in some facility, so we kept it between us. I worked my night shifts, came over twice a week, handled everything. Meanwhile, Patricia visited once a month, for 2 hours. Usually for dinner, where she'd talk about Jason's latest case or Michelle's new house in the suburbs. Jason came maybe 4 times a year, Michelle even less. But they talked about Grandpa like they were his primary caregivers. "We're keeping an eye on him," Patricia would tell people. "Making sure he's okay." They weren't. I was. Last month, Grandpa fell badly. Fractured his hip. I got the call at 3 a.m., raced to his house, found him on the kitchen floor, Drove him to the A. I stayed with him through the surgery, through recovery, through the first week home. Took vacation days I couldn't afford to lose. Patricia visited once in the hospital. "This is so hard on all of us," she said. All of us. She'd been there 20 minutes. Tonight was Thanksgiving at Grandpa's house. I'd volunteered to cook because no one else would. I took the day shift at the hospital so I could be there in the afternoon, spent 4 hours cooking turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, all of it. Patricia arrived with store-bought pie and wine. Jason and Michelle showed up empty-handed. Their spouses brought nothing. I served dinner, cleared plates, washed dishes while everyone sat in the living room talking. I was at the sink, hands in soapy water, when I heard Patricia's voice from the dining room. "You know what frustrates me? Daniel never contributes to family things. He just shows up." I froze. "What do you mean?" Jason asked. "I mean, look at him. He's 32, still renting that tiny apartment, working night shifts like he's fresh out of school. He doesn't help with Dad. He doesn't offer to split costs. He just exists." My hands were shaking. I dried them on a towel, walked back to the dining room. Everyone was still at the table. Grandpa sat at the head, quiet, his face unreadable. "Excuse me?" I said. Patricia turned to me, not even embarrassed. "Daniel, I'm just saying we all contribute to taking care of Dad." Jason helped him set up his online banking. Michelle bought him that medical alert system. "But you never help with anything. You just show up and take." "Take?" I repeated. "Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas, Easter, you come, you eat, but what do you give back?" "Your family, but family means contribution." Jason nodded. "She has a point, Dan. We all pitch in." I looked around the table. Michelle was nodding. Their spouses looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. "You think I don't contribute?" I said, my voice shaking. "I mean, what have you done?" Patricia asked. "Give me one example of you actually helping Dad with anything substantial." I opened my mouth to respond, but I didn't get the chance. Grandpa William stood up. At 76, recovering from hip surgery, it took effort. But he stood, and he slammed his hand on the table hard enough to make the wine glasses jump. "That's enough, Patricia." "Dad, I said that's enough." His voice had that military edge I'd only heard a few times in my life. "You want to know what Daniel contributes? You really want to know?" The room went silent. "For 3 years, since your sister-in-law died, that boy has been paying my mortgage. $600 a month. That's $7,200 a year. Do the math, that's $21,000 he's put into keeping me in this house." Patricia's face went white. "He paid my property taxes when I was 3 months behind, $4,200. He bought me a new furnace when mine died, $3,000. He covers my medication copays every month, that's another $3,000 a year." Grandpa's voice was getting louder. "When my roof leaked, he climbed up there and fixed it himself. When the gutters fell off, he spent a Saturday putting new ones up. When my car wouldn't start, he paid for the repairs. When I fell and fractured my hip, he's the one who found me at 3 in the morning. Took me to the hospital, stayed with me through surgery, took vacation days to help me recover." He looked around the table. "Jason, when's the last time you were here, Michelle?" "You visit maybe once every 2 months. You stay 2 hours tops. You don't call, you don't check in, you don't notice when things are broken or bills are overdue." Jason tried to speak. "Dad, we didn't know you needed." "You didn't ask," Grandpa's voice cracked. "Daniel didn't wait to be asked. He saw what needed to be done and he did it. While working 12-hour night shifts. While living on a nurse's salary. While barely making rent on his own place." He pulled out his phone, opened his banking app, turned the screen to show Patricia. "You want proof? Look. Every month for 3 years. Mortgage payment from Daniel, utility bills paid by Daniel. Property taxes from Daniel." Patricia couldn't speak. "You know what else?" Grandpa continued. "That boy drives across the city twice a week after working all night to check on me. To make sure I'm eating. To make sure I'm taking my medications. To fix whatever's broken. To just sit with me so I'm not alone." He looked at me and his eyes were wet. "Daniel doesn't help?" "Daniel is the only one who helps. The rest of you show up for holidays, eat my food, drink my wine, and then disappear back to your comfortable lives. But Daniel shows up. Every time without being asked. Without expecting thanks." Michelle was crying. Jason stared at his plate. Their spouses looked mortified. "So don't you dare," Grandpa said to Patricia, his voice shaking with rage. Don't you dare sit in my house, eating food Daniel cooked, and tell me he doesn't contribute. He's contributed more to this family than all of you combined. Patricia finally found her voice. I didn't know. Dad, I didn't know you were struggling financially. Because you didn't ask, Grandpa interrupted. You assumed I was fine because that's easier than actually checking. Daniel didn't assume, he noticed. And he acted. He sat back down, breathing hard. The surgery, the emotion, it was taking a toll. I moved to his side. Grandpa, you okay? I'm fine. He gripped my hand. I'm fine because you've been taking care of me. But I'm not fine with watching them treat you like you're worthless. Jason spoke up, his voice small. Daniel, I had no idea about any of this. We should have been helping. You should have, I said quietly. But it wasn't about the money, it was about showing up, about noticing, about caring enough to ask. Michelle was fully crying now. I'm so sorry. I thought Dad was fine. I thought because he was in his house everything was okay. Things are only okay because Daniel made them okay, Grandpa said. This house would have been foreclosed. My medications would have been rationed. I'd probably be in some nursing home by now if it wasn't for him. Patricia looked devastated. Why didn't you tell us you needed help? Pride, Grandpa admitted. I didn't want you knowing I couldn't handle things. I didn't want you thinking I was helpless. But you told Daniel? I didn't tell Daniel anything. Daniel saw. And then he just started fixing things. He never made me ask. He never made me feel weak. He just helped. Patricia turned to me. Daniel, I'm sorry. I've been so wrong about you. About everything. You've spent 32 years making me feel like a failure, I said, and my voice finally cracked. Like choosing nursing over law was a waste. Like making less money meant I was less valuable, but I've been here, Patricia. While you were building your career and your big house, I've been making sure Grandpa didn't lose his. Jason stood up. We need to start helping. Financially, I mean, we should split the mortgage, the bills. Now you want to help? I asked, now that you know about it. Where were you for 3 years? We didn't know. You didn't care enough to find out. My voice rose. You visited once a month and thought that was enough. You called on holidays and thought you were good grandchildren. But caring for someone isn't about visiting. It's about being there when things break, when bills are overdue. When they fall at 3 in the morning, the table was silent. Grandpa spoke again, quieter now. I don't want your money, Jason. I want you to understand what your cousin has sacrificed. $21,000 over 3 years on a nurse's salary. Do you know what he's given up? He doesn't own a car. He walks to work. He eats ramen because he's sending me $600 a month. He doesn't go out, doesn't take vacations, doesn't buy anything for himself. He looked at Patricia. And you called him selfish. You said he takes without giving. When he's given everything. The dinner ended awkwardly. People left early, promising to help more and be more involved. Empty promises, probably. But maybe not. After everyone left, Grandpa and I sat on the couch in silence. I didn't want you to tell them, I finally said. I know, but I couldn't listen to it anymore. You've been taking care of me and they've been taking credit. They're family, they have their own lives, so do you. But you made room in yours for me. He put his hand on my shoulder. Your father would be so proud of you, Daniel. You're exactly the man he hoped you'd become. That broke me. I cried for the first time in months. For my dad, for my mom, for the exhaustion of carrying everything alone. I'm going to set up a family meeting, Grandpa said. Jason and Michelle need to start contributing financially. Not for me, for you. So you can stop drowning. Grandpa, I don't need their money. Yes, you do. You've been drowning for 3 years and I've watched you smile through it. That ends now. 3 weeks later, we had that meeting. Jason and Michelle agreed to split Grandpa's mortgage and medications 3 ways. Patricia apologized again, offered to cover his property taxes going forward. It helped. Suddenly, I had $600 a month that was mine again. I could eat real meals, buy new work shoes, start paying down my credit cards. But the biggest change wasn't financial. It was that they started showing up. Jason visited twice a week. Michelle called every few days. They noticed things when the porch light burned out, when the mail piled up, when Grandpa seemed off. They finally learned what I'd known all along. Caring for someone isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistent presence. It's about noticing. It's about showing up even when it's inconvenient. My name is Daniel Hayes. I'm 32 years old, and I'm a nurse. For 3 years, my family treated me like I was the one who never helped, who never contributed, who just took from family gatherings without giving back. They didn't know I was paying my grandfather's mortgage. They didn't know I'd given up $21,000 I didn't have. They didn't know I was working night shifts and then coming over to fix his furnace, his roof, his life. But my grandfather knew. And on Thanksgiving, when my aunt accused me of never helping, he stood up and exposed every sacrifice I'd made that they'd been too blind to see. I didn't need recognition. I didn't need applause. I needed them to stop treating me like a failure just because I chose a different path than they did. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not wealthy. I don't know a house in the suburbs, but I showed up. I sacrificed. I cared. And in the end, that's what family is supposed to be about. Not money, not status, not careers. Showing up every time, even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching.